Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Ali Reza Rafiei in a 10-minute game on chess.com. Let's open with the English c4, mixing it up a little bit. I'm playing a quicker standard game. I think I'm still going to group this under the standard category. Doing this for two reasons. One, it's getting a little bit late here. It's almost 9 o'clock my time. I want to post this before I go to bed. And also, I want to get myself in the habit of just playing faster and not belaboring some of my decisions, especially in the standard category, so much. So 10-minute, you can still play a decent game. There's no increment, but let's see if I can make good practical decisions, trying to play almost in the style of the clock as a weapon, but in a 10-minute game. So, okay, we have a Tarrasch by transposition. White did this early c4, which I can try to take advantage of by perhaps playing b3. I can also play knight c3 and maybe go for e4. I remember is one way you can play against this, but I'm tempted to play b3 right here just to ask the pawn on c4 what it intends to do. You know, is black going to take? Are they going to prop up the pawn? Because here, I think a4 looks like a pretty good and standard undermining move, because if a6, I can take on b5. So I don't know that black wants to play b5 when they don't have the rook on a8 protected. That's often the litmus test for this idea. If the bishop was on b7 and black could successfully play a6 here, that'd be different, but this feels like a very shaky construction. Okay, bishop d7, so do I take or do I play knight e5? Taking would be my default move, take, and then maybe knight c3 after black recaptures. Probably don't want to take here and allow b takes. Knight e5 makes a ton of sense as well, though. Unleash my light square bishop, attack the bishop. Definitely leaning towards taking, though, and I'm going to do it. Let's capture. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. I had an eventful day. It was Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Okay, I can take here too is one other option I'm noticing. I can take, bishop takes, maybe then knight e5. Interesting option, but knight c3 was my default move. It looks pretty strong. Let's go with that. But I was going to say, I also was inducted into my State Chess Hall of Fame today, which is a massive honor. Here's the plaque that I got. I will post a picture of this plaque. I have something funny to say about this in a second, but let me first try to fire off some moves here. Okay, now knight e5 looks even better for me because I'd be hitting c6 and also attacking c4 twice. I probably don't want to take right away. I think I'd rather take on c4 only after having played knight e5. But the funny thing I was going to mention about this plaque, it's kind of hard to read. You might be able to read it. It talks about my YouTube subscribers here. And at the time this plaque was made, I had 73,000 YouTube subscribers. And now I have over 81,000. So this plaque is only, max like 2 or 3 months old. So that's a testament to you guys and supporting my channel and the kind of growth that I've seen on my channel here. So thank you guys. So c takes b3. Could just play queen takes b3. I'm probably not in a hurry to take here. I don't think that light square bishop's running away anywhere. Yeah, take looks fine. I wonder if black can play queen b6. But no, I think this should be good. Queen b6 would be an interesting try, though. Idea being after a queen trade to have the rook on a8 defended. Black does not play that. Okay, so now I start to look seriously at cashing in. Knight takes c6, knight takes c6, knight takes d5. There is this issue of the d-pawn hanging. So I'm calculating that right now. Otherwise, that looks quite strong. It would just be a straightforward way to try to win a center pawn, unleash my light square bishop even further. I could play it safe here and play something like e3, keep the pressure on d5, but I think taking on d5 immediately looks quite good. I don't know, though. Maybe I don't want to release the tension quite yet. e3 or rook d1, definitely also possible here. Am I doing black a favor if I release the tension like this? So I'm thinking take d4. Knight takes f6, bishop takes f6. I have to move my attack to queen, queen d3. I might ultimately be able to win the pawn on a7, but I don't know how much I like that. I kind of would prefer to keep more pressure. Yeah, so maybe just rook d1. Just play a useful move. Okay, so as usual, I'm down on the clock, but I really like my position here. I had to take some time out to explain the plaque and all of that business, so hope you guys forgive me. Okay, queen c7. Yeah, now again, I can take here. I think this pin is pretty uncomfortable for black, though. Bishop f4 is another move I'm looking at. But taking certainly looks fine. Take and then take d5. Yeah, maybe I'm just ready to cash in like that at this point. Let's do it. Let's not delay any further. Expecting knight takes d5. Let's take here. Knight takes c6 and then knight takes d5, I should say. And on knight takes, I'll take with the queen. Black could try knight b4 here. Is one interesting option. Maybe try to bait me into playing queen takes a8, giving up the queen for 2 rooks. I say giving up, but winning the queen for 2 rooks. Okay, rook c8. Now I can just trade everything on c6 and take a7. That feels like simply 2 extra pawns. I could also play bishop f4 first if I want to strive for even more. But 2 extra pawns, I think I should be able to pretty easily minimize black's activity there. But let's see what happens. Yeah, grab a7, so no outside pass pawn for black. And I have the extra e and d pawns, which I'm going to advance. Bishop f6. Now, do I want to advance right away? Should I play e4? E4 looks appealing, although it runs into bishop takes d4. That is a threat right here. Important to note. Because rook takes d4, rook takes c1. Always got to be considering what the opponent's up to. Could play d5. Don't know. Bishop a3, another move that comes to mind. Yeah, maybe bishop a3 first. Let's do that. Develop and hit that rook. Placing the bishop on c5 may be useful. Might also play e3. Okay, black plays rook d8. Now I could play bishop e7 and just try to get the bishops off the board. Yeah, because rook takes d4 is going to fail for black because of the back rank problem. That may be one of the more practical ways to play this. Yeah, let's play that. I've already played g3, so I don't have any back rank problems myself, fortunately. Now, the one scenario I want to avoid going forward is black doubling up his rooks along the second rank. If he's able to do that and maybe tie me down to the defense of one of these pawns, that would be, I think, proving difficult in my conversion. I think it's going to be harder to convert these 2 pawns. Although maybe with the d pawn, I can even still win in some cases like that. But it is the one thing I would want to prevent in this scenario. Don't mind a trade of another pair of rooks if black ever allows it. I don't think they will. Okay, so just h6. Don't know if I want to advance this pawn yet. Probably not. Rook d6, e4, maybe king f8. Might just want to play my rook back here. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Rook e3, maybe double up, push the d-pawn, be able to push the e-pawn after that. Okay. So 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Black tries to make it difficult for me to advance e4. I'm going to play h4, just a general space gaining move. Now, one nice thing about being up 2 pawns is you can often give one of them away and win a king and pawn ending up 1 pawn. So that may be a theme. We shall see. Okay, so g5. taking looks most normal here. Yeah, let's do that. And then maybe e3. E3, or I could try to activate one of my rooks, but I need to keep this in mind. I need to keep that guarded for now. So let's play e3 first, just to try to free up my rooks a bit. If black puts a rook on the h-file, I can play rook h1. I don't mind a trade of rooks. That would be totally fine. Okay, now here I'm thinking of activating a rook. So maybe rook to c3 looks decent. Let's do that. Try for something like this. Also rook h1 in mind. No babysitting necessary when it comes to the d-pawn anymore. Okay, g4. But now, let's activate this guy. Make black think about this threat. And retain the option of rook c5 as well. I feel like this f5 pawn is going to be pretty weak for black going forward. All right, so here looking at rook c5 or just the direct rook to h6. Rook h6 immediately gets a pair of rooks off the board, so that looks pretty compelling. But I might be able to squeeze black a little bit more. I kind of like rook c5. I think there's almost no risk with this move. Okay, so now I was thinking rook h5, threatening rook e5 check. Black can play rook d5 to defend, but looks very sketchy. Could also play rook e5 right away, rook e5, king f7, something like that. Rook e5, king f7, rook h5. Black does have king to g6. Could also play rook here as well. Spoiled for good options in this position, or even check king f7, then check, and double up the rooks that way. Yes, quite a few good options. Okay, I'm just going to play rook h5. Threatening rook e5, and I think black has to play rook d5 here. Yeah, because now I just get to check and go take the f-pawn. Yeah, rook d5 was mandatory, and still would have been a bit of work to do there. Okay, now let's just take one of these. And we're going to get a pair of rooks off in the process. Too many pawns. Okay, let's take that guy. I had rook g5 as well, taking g4. That would have been cleaner. Let's go rook e4. I'm thinking about just putting my rook behind the d-pawn. So let's give a check here first. Force king g5, then play d5, put the rook behind the d-pawn. Black has to play rook d6, so their rook is shut down. Could also just play e4 there. e4, rook f5, kind of gradually crawl forward. That also looks pretty good. Let's do that. Yeah, maybe now just check. Start bringing the king around. Let me march up here. I think black will probably try to go active with the rook, but then I'm going to play d6. Advance, and again, idea of rook d5. Yeah, now if rook d7, I can't play e5 because my rook hangs, but just rook d5, bring up my king. Definitely sufficient to win. Don't mind if black plays king e6 and rook takes d6, just trade. Yeah, again, this is the nice thing about being up material. Even being up one pawn, here I'm going to be up 2 pawns, possibly even 3 if I win this, but yeah, black's just hampered by the fact that they can't ever really tolerate a transition to a king and pawn ending. So here I'm going to play d7 and basically force black to take it. Otherwise they have one check, but that's resigns time after that. Okay. So thank you to Ali Reza for the game. Not Grandmaster Ali Reza Faruja, unfortunately for me. That would be a very nice win to get against a up-and-coming Grandmaster, probably someone who will be in the 2700 club FIDE very soon. Okay, so I think I played all right. I don't think black put up very strong resistance at times. Even towards the end, as I was saying in the rook ending, black could have tried rook d5 here. I think they kind of have to, otherwise rook e5 is unstoppable. And against that, I was probably going to give a check here. And then after rook d6, just trade. And I was debating whether to play f3 or start maneuvering my king around. I think they both look decent. Yeah, f3 perhaps, just to slightly weakens my structure, but I'm going to get my king up to f4. That looks pretty crushing. Even if I play g4 and we trade and reduce it to a situation where I have two connected pawns, provided my king isn't completely cut off, which it won't be, or black wins one of these pawns, which black won't, this is just winning for white. So yeah, I think the opening got black in trouble. Got to be very careful about that early b5. So really c4 I think is kind of a suboptimal variation for black, but I think the move that especially got black in trouble was b5. As I was saying during the game, kind of the litmus test for this is whether after a4 you can successfully play a6 with your rook on a8 defended, but here black didn't have that because I would take and yeah, the rook would be loose there. So black had to rely on their pieces to keep their very fragile queenside structure together. This is a scenario that happens a lot, by the way, so you should get used to looking at these two undermining moves. That's the way you can take advantage of an overextended opponent's pawn structure early in the game. I think I spent a little bit too long debating between good options. Yeah, and I was mentioning the resistance that black could have tried to put up, so I was thinking perhaps queen b6 was an interesting option. It looks kind of ridiculous to play this, but again, the idea is if take, and I trade, black can take with the bishop. So I was thinking maybe play bishop g5 or something here instead to connect my rooks. This looks pretty strong. Knight takes c6 is still in the air. I'm sure this is pretty bad for black. Black really suffers from some weak pawns here, e5 and b6. I'll be curious what the computer thinks about my technique in the rook ending as well. I mean, the position after I take on a7 should just be a technical win. But, some care is still required here. Maybe I didn't have to trade the dark square bishops. I could have perhaps tried to advance my pawns right away, but bishop takes d4 was a threat. I didn't really want to play e3 and give black a chance to maybe bring their rook over to the c file or the b file. And again, worst case scenario for me would be if black got doubled up somehow in the second rank. But I think this was largely okay. Yeah, h4, always a good move to look at in these rook endings. Gaining a little space. Black played g5, but trades should not be good for black. Yeah, I think a pretty smooth game overall. A little hiccup too. I could have played rook g5 right here and just picked up this pawn. I guess black could think about playing rook a2 at the end of that line, but I would have rook f4 and I'm covering f2. Everything's fine. Cover the one weakness that I have that's controlling the pawn chain. Okay, so let's click over to the analysis board. Turn on the engine. So this was in English, but it quickly transposed into a Tarrasch. Yeah, when black plays c5, I think white's best option is to take and play d4. Now we're in a Tarrasch. Yeah, c4, castles, bishop e7, and I decided to undermine this right away. I think black should take. I probably would have taken with the queen in this case. And I like white's position a little bit more. I feel like with black having this isolated pawn on d5, that should matter a bit more than white's isolated pawn on a2. Because easier for me to hide this weakness, whereas d5 is going to be under fire from many white pieces. I'm going to play knight c3, potentially knight e5, have that bishop bear down on the pawn. Looks nice. So yeah, b5, but you can see how the eval just jumps after that. It's already plus 1.5 or more territory for white, a4. So, yeah, black plays b4. That also looks highly suspect, just off the top of my head. Take, knight e5, attack this pawn, attack the rook in the corner. Yeah, computer says this is plus 3.5 for white. So clear case of overextension by black. And remember that rule. I'm going to say it once again. I mean, this might be tenable for black if they can play a6, but the fact that black can't do this for fear of the rook being undefended, that kills black here. Okay, so we got a trade. I played knight c3. I think knight c3 is fine. I don't have any misgivings about that move. The engine says I can take on c4 right away as well. Yeah, I briefly wondered about this. Bishop takes c4. Many ways to Rome here. All roads lead to Rome. Knight e5 threatening this. Yeah, this looks very strong as well. But knight c3, developing move with tempo on the light square bishop. Hard to argue with that. Bishop came back. Knight e5. Knight e5 is especially nice when black's knight is here because they can't bring it out because they lose the bishop. So black took. Okay, now what about queen b6? I was wondering about that move. Okay, I can take on b6, just trade. Oh, that's an interesting line that I didn't look at. Take, and then take here. Inviting rook takes a1, but then going after the knight on b8 and just getting the two minors. Yeah, that looks pretty darn strong. d5 is also weak. The knight can come back out via c6 if necessary. Yeah, queen a2 is also a nice move. Just keep full pressure on black's position. Multiple pieces converging here. Knight takes c6, still a threat. I guess there is queen takes d4 to think about. Even this works out well for me, according to the engine. A little more complicated, but this is +6 for white. Not too surprising, given that white has the bishops. Black's underdeveloped. Temporary burst of activity for black, but so tough once those bishops get in the action and the position opens up. Yeah, so here I spent a little time because I was mentioning this line. I could take and then try to take on d5, but I wasn't sure about knight takes d4. Yeah, and indeed it's good for white, but probably not as good as just maintaining the status quo for a moment. Engine's top moves are bishop g5, bishop f4, bishop e3, rook d8, also up there, looks fine. Yeah, I think I'm bound to win the d5 pawn after this. Again, black could try this move, but I guess it may fail for similar reasons, right? I could play queen a2. I can probably also do this again, right, if I wanted to. Rook takes a1. This time I would take the bishop on e7 with check. Because the knight would be defended by the rook here, but I can take the bishop on e7 with check. And if black takes this way, I mean, at minimum, I trade rooks and then take d5, go up a pawn. Monster light square bishop. So rook d1. Yeah, now I took on c6. Knight takes d5, also quite strong here. Yeah, knight takes d5, that's a good point. Maybe just playing to try to win the rook on a8. Kind of didn't like taking on c6 because it does give black a chance to develop this knight, so I just went with the practical option at this point because I had burned some time, but fully admit that that would be, it's possible that black has better there. Now here I thought maybe black's best bet was knight b4. From a practical point of view, I mentioned in a recent video, when you're in a bad position or you feel like you're losing, oftentimes the best thing to do is try to unbalance the position in some sort of way, even if it means sacrificing something or losing in a messier way. I think that's better than just trading down and gradually getting ground down. So knight b4 would have at least posed me a dilemma as to whether I want to play queen takes a8, rook takes a8, bishop takes a8, which does win me one more point of material, that transaction, but it looks a bit loose. I would have to make sure that, with multiple undefended pieces here, maybe queen c2, options like that, that black isn't turning the table somehow. And I might have just decided it was safer to move the queen away. Probably would have. Queen a5 does look like a good move. Attack the queen, it's defended here. Yeah, try to just win a7. So I probably would have played something like this, but I would have had to burn some time, and just having to think about that could potentially get black back in the game at some point. But yeah, after rook a to c8, it's pretty straightforward. Just swap twice, take the pawn. And as they say, after this, it's kind of a matter of technique. I have a very safe position. Yeah, bishop e7, just looking to trade down. Yeah, I think it's kind of just a gradual technical win. I mean, if I were black, I probably would have tried to post this rook a little more aggressively, but with the d-pawn coming, I might have even also, I was thinking about playing something like king f1 and then doing this plan, just getting a rook to d2 to kick black off of the second rank. You know, say hypothetically something like this. Or even the other rook. But just kick black off of the second rank and then gradually start crawling forward. Something like e4, d5, f3, king f2. It's going to take a while to win, but winning position for white. Yeah, black tried to hamper my ability to play e4. Here I just waited and played h4. You know, ironically, black playing g5 I think made things worse for them because they had these pawns on the 5th rank that required constant protection. So maybe it would have been better for black to just wait and play something like king f6 or king e6 and kind of ask me how I intend to win this position. I probably would have played e3 and coordinated my rooks. Try to play rook c3, rook c7, or rook to c5. Attack either along the 7th rank or along the 5th rank. But at all times, I have to keep f2 defended. But note how I'm just keeping this one pawn, and I have all the other pawns protected in this structure. Got the flying V going, for those of you who have watched Mighty Ducks. Yeah, it's a good formation here. Only one weakness. So again, as long as black doesn't double up on the 2nd rank or somehow get both of their rooks working against me, it's just winning for white. But yeah, g5 kind of made things worse for black in a way because they weren't able to generate any threats and just had to defend. Had this f-pawn that was a liability. I'm curious right here. I was debating a few moves. Rook e5 check, rook h7. Engine likes rook h7 best, which does threaten mate in 2. I think they're all kind of the same, though, honestly. Yeah, I mostly played this one just because I saw it was going to force black to play rook d5 to keep the pawn. And then, as I said, I was thinking about this check. And if there's a trade like this, playing f3. Let's just see what the engine has to say about that. Yeah, seems fine. King e6. I'd probably just trade and play rook g5. Although I guess then black's playing, what, rook f3? Maybe some hope there. I do feel like even this position's winning, though. I could go check as well and go here. Or just rook g5. Yeah, this should be a win. Yeah, something like this. King f6, take, put the rook behind the pawn. Yeah, split pawns. Not as ideal as having the 2 connectors, but again, black's just really hurt by the fact that they can't ever, like in this case, win this pawn. So say I play g4, rook e5, king f3. If ever black goes after this, they get into a losing king and pawn ending. White can get their king in front of the pawn, and white will win. So, okay. Many ways to convert here, but yeah, after rook a6, rook e5 takes. Just missed this rook g5 move, but very safe position. Up 3 pawns here. And I think it was fine after this. Use the threat of a king and pawn ending at any time to win the game. Okay, so a little bit faster of a time control. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And once again, thank you to all of you guys out there who've been watching and supporting me. Again, it was really cool to get inducted into the Minnesota Chess Hall of Fame today. I'll post a picture of this in case you guys want to check it out. But yeah, the YouTube channel and being able to spread my love for the game of chess online definitely played a role in you know, kind of my resume, if you will, and one of the reasons I was inducted, along with being, you know, part of the Minnesota chess community for a long time and hopefully many, many more years to come. But just wanted to say thank you to guys. Thank you guys for watching. All right, so I will sign off now, and thanks as always, guys, and I'll be back again soon with another video.